Our next chapter is called Keying Conference. Maybe it should be called the Keying Conference. And before we get to a review of the chapter, the Keying Conference is basically a meeting of people that are, in my experience, are both invited and those that aren't. um, and people that you've invited see no reason why they need to attend, and sometimes that person that needs to attend is really the person that must be there, and their time is here in terms of value, and yours is somewhere 100 feet below this hand. So I've tried to get information or have keying conferences as informal as they can ultimately be, or sometimes ultimately are, by either waiting outside someone's office. And it's a simple question. The janitor's closet, how do you want it keyed? Just tell me what key. I don't care. What key do you want it? What do you want to pass through that cylinder? Master only, a selective that's janitorial, give it its own key. NMK, that kind of thing. I've had one keying conference that I did was really great back in second half of the 90s. I remember it because the decision maker was there. He was excited to be there. He wanted to talk about how to key all the locks. There were about 100 cylinders to key, but he brought lots of experience from his background, and he knows what he didn't like. And what really went well was I understood. He spoke. He distilled his needs down in such a way that everyone in the room clearly understood. He was able to corral the thoughts and ideas when they were going askew on him, and I was able to, as he's illustrating verbally, I'm able to convert it into SKCS, and I'm able to convert it in my mind. Yes, we're okay. We've got plenty. There's plenty in the 6-pin system that he has. Orders of magnitude more than what he actually ended up needing. So it was not a big deal. Not orders of magnitude, but he'd have a lifetime of expansion, specification. Then there's other times where, like I said earlier, I'm literally standing outside of this person's office who has zero regard for my time. Zero. Just to find out how we were going to key this lock. And every time I'd have to go back. Then there was other keying conferences where it would be me and one person, just the engineer who knows how he needs it all done. I would be given a list of this door type, this door type, this door type, meaning application, the room type. It's a patient room, or it's a back of office storage, or storage doors, but then there were different storage doors. I want this key to work these doors, this key to work these doors, this key to work these doors, a master to work everything, simple stuff like that. Then I would get my wheeled cart and cycle my way through this building over a period of, whatever it took. 2 days is what that job took. And I would literally just go door to door. Now, what I could have done was gathered all the cylinders and brought them all back to a central location and keyed them. But there were too many to have people walk by in this real environment to not have a cylinder there because people had keys. So that's how I did it. It worked out really well. And then many keying conferences are just either, on the phone or just through email. Email is fine. It obviously gives you a written record. Going in person is not always something that will be done. Either it's not needed to be done or it's impractical to do it in person because you've got people in different parts of the country. This post-COVID era, in person, don't know. Is it necessary? It is just a keying conference. The most important thing is that the requirements of the owner are met. What's also paramount is that the specification is adhered to. You're not being asked to do stuff outside of, what was originally built in. And part of this chapter will talk about, I've been in these keying conferences and there would be an inherent weakness that is discovered only in the keying conference because it wasn't conveyed to anyone till that point. And, the obligation is you've got maybe the person that you're working with on the cylinders. There might be someone between you and the factory. It's unlikely, but there could be. You could be doing a job that is obloy. Just look up obloy. It's got rotating discs. It's a extremely interesting cylinder platform. But you may not be working with obloy directly. You might be working with a distributor of theirs. Someone who'll be providing this. I can't buy obloy direct from the factory. I can't buy ASA direct from the factory. ASA, think Primus. If you're not familiar with ASA, if you think Primus, you'll get it. As I probably said earlier, the same person who patented Primus patented ASA, and I think ASA came first. But within a period of time, maybe in the mid or late 80s, that all came together. So you're either working with a distributor, you're probably working direct with the factory. Then you've got your customer. Let's say it's the general contractor, whoever the contractor is hired for that, either the sub or the general. Then you've got the architect and the owner. You might have someone else involved. And here you are at this keying conference, and you know in your head what you want you can't do, period. Get out the checkbook, because that's what it's going to take, or the coal shovel for the amount of money. So you've got a sticky situation in the sense of, with whom do your loyalties truly lie? My personal opinion is I like to, it depends on who the customer is, but my personal loyalty is to my client in the sense that it's easy to expose your customer to risk, in the sense that if you just come out and start talking about, oh, okay, you need this, it's going to cost an extra $10,000, you're not aware of conversations between your customer and his customer. So my personal approach is I would digest everything, understand it all, and then I would put a proposal to my customer and say, here's what needs to happen. So in these keying conferences, I'm not divulging to the end user a glaring mistake or omission that will go through the natural chain of command. Contractor, general, whoever his customer is. Is it architect, design, build? Who knows? So why don't we switch to the screen view and let's just go through the chapter. Okay, here's the keying conference chapter. Let's go through it. Keying conference. What do you need to lead a successful keying conference? Luck. Luck is what you need. No. What do you need to lead a successful keying conference? I understand that DHI in 2021, this year, they've introduced a new course, DHC 210, Mastering the Key Meeting. And while I'm yet to attend this class, it's brand new. I was at DHI in late summer of 2021, and I was taking a different class. So I don't know much about it. I know Rodney Weaver, AHC, who was leading the class. I couldn't say I know him like we're pals, but, casual conversation. I don't know that I'll end up taking it unless it falls in my lap and I need, education's always a good thing, and Rodney lives and breathes this stuff. So it would be very beneficial, certainly, for me to take it. But it's low on my priority list. I hope this primer may shed helpful information on conducting a keying conference. So you are scheduling, conducting, and leading the keying conference because you are the expert. In my experience, this is how the owner, general contractor, and others that will attend the meeting will view you. Your responsibility in being the expert is multifold. Your first duty is to be sure you are supplying what you are obligated to supply and not beyond. Managing yours and your employer's best interest is paramount, naturally. I say this because it is easy for a client to ask for things that are beyond the scope of the project. Not intentionally so, but I've seen this happen. And just to expand on that, an owner will ask, shouldn't I have a key that can't be duplicated at Home Depot? How do you answer that? hey, is this in my best interest? Does this serve my needs? And you're in your head, you're saying, well, if it was me, I'd be doing this. I wouldn't be doing that, what you're doing. The point is, you have to learn how to navigate that scenario. My my answer to that has been different. Like, hey, you can have anything you want. It depends on who the customer is. If I'm dealing with the end owner directly, the answer is going to be, you can have anything you want. Whatever you would like, you can have, guaranteed. And it's, some people, oh, great, let's do that. And you're thinking in your head, yeah, what you just said increases the cost by 1,000%. So, not intentionally so, most of the time. This occurs because a layman does not possess a working knowledge of the components, limits, and limitations necessarily of what they are buying in a key system. I'll tell you, the other thing that's just as another aside that I won't formalize as typing it in this chapter, the worst person to have in a keying conference is the owner who thinks they know how this works and is so cocksure that they're inflexible and altering the way that they tell you what they want, because you're trying to temper it against what you can provide and what you can wrap your head around. And an owner who is inflexible makes it a far harder task. So I've experienced that as well, and that's just simply not fun. Obviously, CYA is what you need to do in that stuff, and that's all there is to it. So it is at the keying conference where you are also in a position to discover how the specified and approved items may not meet the owner's requirements. It is also at the keying conference where the owner or owner's representative has one-on-one access to you, the key expert. I have found that they're looking forward to that generally, overall. I have found owners really look forward to this meeting, as it is at this time where they get to convey their needs directly to you, the expert. Be prepared for an excited owner. They bring to the conversation experience of what has not worked for them in the past. I find listening is key. I find that through listening, you can compare the spoken needs of the owner against the approved specification. This is an opportunity for you to convey, well, when I say approved specification, I mean the approved submittals. What I'm trying to infer there is the profile of what's been approved. You're making sure that it meets that. I'll just change that to submittals. This is an opportunity for you to convey, record, and transmit disparities to the client, probably your client. And in doing so, you may disparities to your client. And in doing so, you may help Let's pause this. Okay, this is an opportunity for you to convey, record, and transmit disparities to your client, and in doing so, you render in a clear, concise fashion what you are supplying, and in terms of key work, and in doing so, you also insulate yourself from future concerns, hopefully. There are times when I've supplied information to a client in industry standard nomenclature, and I have included the reference document. I might include an SDI, Steel Door Institute passage, when we're talking about I've had clients that receive material and store it improperly, and if I feel the client will make this difficult on the second time around, I will include that language in my documentation to them, and I will include the supporting SDI document as the industry standard, so that if there's rust on the doors and they were left out for 2 weeks in the rain, I don't suggest that you blurb right out, well, I told you to, that kind of thing. Remember what I said? I don't know that you need to do that, but at a certain point you may need to. And if that paperwork's in place. So the point is that you'll record and convey in a concise fashion. Concise means you're going to use industry standard terminology. And if you have to include, like the Yale, well, if you have to include part of this document, or if you have to include, Yale's keying and cylinder manual, where you could say, here's how a level 2 system or a level 3 system is broken into standard terminology, so that the client has that documentation that is theirs, that you've provided to them for them to use or not to use. But should they get the locks and, AA5 isn't what they thought, and you've provided them with a key schematic, okay, and the definition of what AA5 means, and they've approved all of that, you're in good shape, hopefully. I mean, just because you've CYA'd doesn't mean you get paid easily, but, you're in a better position. Is this an opportunity to assist the client to achieve their work, and in doing so, to achieve their goals not originally adequately conveyed through the construction documents? Yeah, it is. Indirectly, most likely. Is this an opportunity for you to showcase your talents in the pursuit of helping your client achieve their goals? Absolutely. You're the expert. Let's add that. Is this an opportunity for you to supply any items above the original outline? Absolutely. The point of selling goods and services in the door and hardware industry is to monetize. Becoming an expert in this area creates the environment for you to monetize. The keying conference is where you can shine to your client and to your employer and to the owner. You get a reputation with someone who builds buildings. Your name may come up again. If the original supplied system does not meet the client's requirements, suggest a keying deployment that does. One that serves the purpose of the building and not a particular person. And recall our earlier reading on how master keying decreases security. Keep it, master keying that is, to a minimum when practical and possible. It's one thing to do a job as it's been specified, and you execute that faithfully. And in 6 months, when it's completely not working for the client, you know what? That's not your responsibility. You were hired to do a job. You did the job that you were asked to do. But in the long term, a failed keying system doesn't serve anyone at all. And you may not be at the top of the list for doing more business if the keying system just fell apart. So it's, at a certain level, you have to invest yourself into taking long-term ownership of what you're providing. The potential mentioned above to upsell your products, services, and expertise is dependent upon having a grasp on the expansion specification and knowing how to divide the key. We've gone over this. And being able to do that in your head allows you to quickly know, as Jerome Andrews says, do I have enough stuff? Meaning, can you accommodate what they want? Well, the SPF, which we're going to go over, do you have enough room in your universe for all these planets and galaxies to spin around? These are great skills to have, and with this understanding of these principles, you will be able to spot check or perform a reality check on what the client is requesting. Be sure to ask about future plans or construction expansions. Will today's keying system need to incorporate future requirements? Finding out the project you're working on today represents just 20% of the client's work in the next 5 or 10 years. That may drastically alter the conversation. What I'm trying to say there, finding out that what you're doing today is only 1/5 of all the work that's going to happen over the next decade, yeah, you need to prepare. If they're going to make this keying system have that sort of life expectancy, you need to know that today. It's an opportunity to really... I have found in conversations with the person of authority about the keying that I was the only person who asked about this. You know what? You're the only person who asked about this. Yeah, we're going to build 5 more buildings. You see all that empty land out the window? Yeah, 2 years, we are, that kind of business. Well, wouldn't you want to have some sort of cohesive keying system? The answer to that is yes. So now you're asking questions that are hard for the owner to say no to. It's rare that someone's going to say, "Nah, don't care. It's not my problem." You get that, but you usually don't. Further reading on the expansion specification is time well spent with Jerome Andrews, CML, Fundamentals of Master Keying. Regarding dividing the key, DHI's Core 163, Developing Master Key Systems class, introduces the subject and is offered multiple times a year, either through DHI or DHI Canada. And finally, DHI has, again, in 2021 announced a new course, DCH 210. Yeah, DHC. Sorry. And its course description is here. No, it's not. Yes, it is. DHC 210, Mastering the Key Meeting. Even with the introduction of access control systems to many projects, master key systems are still the foundational bedrock of building security. Consultants need to be able to interpret specification language and listen to an owner's requirements to create a key system that functions properly. This course will bring you through the process of organizing, preparing, and conducting a successful key meeting. You will leave this course confident that you understand key system capabilities, layouts, and key management, and can relay that information to other meeting participants. And I would add to that, to the factory, so they know what you want, so that they're not asking you questions that you just don't understand. Develop the skill to see through the complications of advanced keying and to keep your key systems both simple and secure. So there you go. That is the keying conference. At least, my very brief amount of things that I have to say about it. Listening, again, is the most crucial thing. Let's wrap up this video on camera. The idea of the keying conference being worth your time is that it is something that doesn't go on and on and on for 2 hours, unless it needs to. I find it most important to get the person who has the final decision making at that meeting. I have a couple of times said, I'm not having this meeting right now because I know that everything we're going to talk about, you're then going to make me say a second time, and I didn't phrase it this way, I'm going to have to do this all over again when that person is available. So we're going to do it all at once, and that's all there is to it. That's not my absolute stance on that. I mean, it depends on who the client is. But I will exert pressure to make sure we're all there, it's all done, let's get it up and move it on. So there you go. The next chapter is submittals and governing documents. Yeah, standard progression format we already went over. I said that we'll go over that. We already went over that. That's chapter 7. This is, well, for right now, it's chapter 14. I don't think that will change. So submittals and governing documents, it's a brief introduction to, you're familiar with submittals. Okay, you're in the door hardware industry. On Saturday, I had 2 jobs on the West Coast. They were the same, think of the same type of retail establishment. So they were all but identical. So door 101 here, it was door 101 over here. One job didn't have a door 105 and the other one did. So I did them, on 4 screens, the specs here, my draft here, and I do this one, I do the locks on this one, do the locks on this one, do the closers here, closers here. So you're familiar with submittals. This is additional submittal work to do. It's not nearly as paperwork driven. You need a cover sheet. You are going to need a key schedule, a door number, and the lock and the key code, the standard key coding system. What are you going to have there to that? A floor plan you're probably going to have. And it's a really simple, it's far less, a key schematic, forgive me, that's absolutely going to be included, a key schematic. And just like submittals, they're there to make sure we are all on the same page. I don't like having to spend time making them. I don't think anyone in this industry does. Or at least I've not met that person yet, because they take a lot of time. But at the end of the day, we don't want that call. It's wrong. No one does. So the submittal process keeps us all playing the same sheet of music, and the additional work from the creating of submittals for the keying system is the same. It allows you to put on paper to get approved, this is what you're getting. That's all. Let's move on to it then.